The winter break is approaching and you're counting down the days. You might be on the edge of burnout and you're wondering, how did I get here and how do I prevent it from getting further? Well, today we're going to be talking about what to stop doing before burnout gets too far. So let's dive in.
Hey, teacher bestie. My name's Helena, and I'm the creator of the Present Teacher podcast. I'm a first year teacher coach, and in this podcast, you are going to learn everything from simple, actionable classroom management, social emotional learning, and teacher wellness strategies. You know that impact you want to make in the classroom? Well, we're going to make it happen here.
Before we figure out the 3 things you should do to stop burnout in its tracks before break hits, let's talk about different ways to identify burnout. So we have the same definition here. The first thing is burnout is some symptoms are perfectionism. You are constantly working and perfecting things to make them better and better, saying yes to everything, feeling guilty for resting. All of these are great symptoms or examples of what burnout can feel like. It can look like, spacing out after work, feeling emotionally and mentally and physically frazzled, getting sick very often. All of these are very common for teachers who are experiencing burnout. So now that we've came to the same conclusion on what burnout can look like, let's talk about 3 things to do during burnout to prevent it from getting worse. So the first thing is to prioritize rest. I know it's very tempting when you're feeling behind to continue working and pushing through, but oftentimes this will make things a lot worse. A great example of this would be my first winter break. I was so exhausted that the first 3 days I did nothing but sleep. But as soon as I realized that I was just wasting my break away, I worked the entire rest of my break. And can you guess what happened when I went back to school? Yep, I was feeling worse than when I had started. I wasn't feeling rejuvenated, and it made everything much worse, much more worse than I had intended. I had the intentions of getting ahead to make things better, but the reality was I was just frazzled and exhausted. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to focus on working smarter, not harder. You can be so obsessed with your checklist and your to-do list and getting it all done and the amount of work you do, which is all fine and well, but the reality is that doesn't measure your success as a teacher. For me, the thing that measures my success as a teacher is how much of an impact I make. So taking some time to reflect and see, okay, am I doing this am I measuring my worth as a teacher based off of how much I do or the impact I make? And what are some ways I'm doing that throughout my day? So shifting that mentality from working smarter, not harder is going to make it easier to make that deeper impact that you want to make. And so how you can achieve this is using systems in the classroom. So systems in the classroom are things that you can use or set up to help your classroom run on autopilot. It runs without you. It's effortless. It's easy. And it is possible to have these systems in place. I myself have done it, and I've helped many, many other teachers online do the same. So think about, how can I get my students to run the classroom without me? How can I make it so they run the entire day without me saying a word? They know what to do next. They're self-reliant. They can run it without me. I can just simply pull students back and teach them and have conversations and pretty much be the referee of the game, but not necessarily the coach of the game, if that makes sense. How can I plan and prep out in advance? You don't necessarily have to plan or prep weeks in advance like I do or other teachers might, but having some sort of breathing room I found has been very, very helpful to preventing burnout. And then how can I grade assignments and return them the same week instead of bringing papers home to grade? Deciding, okay, I want to return papers or have a turnaround of a week or a turnaround of 2 weeks or a turnaround of a couple days. Deciding what that is, setting that boundary, and creating a system to make that easy for you to do so you're not staying up late the night before report cards are due trying to catch up. How can I organize my resources? That way it cuts planning time in half. How can I make it so next year it's going to be very, very easy for me to plan, prep, and grab resources and modify them and make them better and grow on them and add to them? How can I organize them so it's easy to find and I'm not wasting valuable time and money repurchasing what I already have? So all of these systems lead to an easier year where teaching becomes easy and fun. And I'm going to be honest, the first time that I made teaching easy, I felt guilty because this was not necessarily the norm. I was very much that teacher that saw everyone online that made teaching easy, but I thought it wasn't for me. It was rare for that to happen, and I felt guilty once I got there because who am I to figure out a way to make teaching easy? Good teachers work to the ground, good teachers work their weekends, good teachers sacrifice their personal time, and that's just not true. It is possible to have a teaching career that's easy and fun. You deserve that. You are worthy of that because you are. You don't have to work hard to get there. So, this is all the stuff I talk about in my new book, That New Teacher Next Door. I actually want to read to you an excerpt from my book so you kind of get an idea on what planning and prepping and burnout looked like for me before I figured out systems and after. So, with that being said, here is one of the chapters or one of the sections from my new book coming out very, very soon. So, chapter 6, Go Home, Helena. That's what my principal told me the Friday before winter break during my first year of teaching. I sat there on my desk, the words on my laptop blurring as I was trying to prep out materials for when we got back from break. But I need to get this done, I told her in protest as I hunched over my laptop and rubbed my temples with frustration. Whatever you are doing can wait. Go home, enjoy your break, she stated caringly. I sighed as I glanced at the time on my laptop. 6:07 p.m. it read. I reluctantly thanked her and agreed with her as I started gathering my things and headed home for the day. My head was throbbing. It was already dark outside, and Kyle, my boyfriend, was undoubtedly already home waiting for me. 5 minutes later, I sat in my parked car, staring at the porch light, gathering the strength to gather my things out of the car and head inside. With a whimper, my eyes stung with hot tears. I sobbed, my body shaking uncontrollably. I was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. Every muscle in my body ached. I felt like my emotions and feelings were completely numb and shut off. I could not think even if I tried. I had reached the highly talked about teacher burnout. I finally managed to silence my sobs long enough to get inside. Kyle met me at the door with concern in his eyes. I let him know I was just tired, and he suggested that I go lay down while he made dinner. I reluctantly agreed and fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow, clothes and shoes on and all. Fast forward several days later. I sat up in my California king bed with a drowsiness I had never felt before. I hadn't showered or brushed my teeth in days. I felt like I had been hit by a bus. My body ached and I still felt numb. With a sob, I burst into tears again. I thought of the 5-year-old me who would make her brother play school with her growing up. If she saw me now, exhausted from teaching, would she be sad? Would she be mad? Or would she be disappointed that we did all that work for nothing? What if I wasn't cut out for teaching? What if someone could be better? Fast forward 2 years later. It's the day before winter break. I'm walking out of the school at 3:13 p.m. Contract time is at 3, with nothing more than my lunchbox and gifts in hands from my friends and students. As I'm walking down the hall, a small voice in the hallway pipes up. Excuse me. I turn around to see one of the new teachers in the building. She has a huge stack of papers in hand, undoubtedly preparing for when we get back from break. I'm sorry to bother you, but I notice you never stay late, and you're always on top of things. What's your secret? She asked with hopefulness in her eyes. I blinked back at her in amazement as it suddenly hit me. I had done it. I'd become that teacher next door. Over the next few minutes, I excitedly shared with her everything. All the strategies I have shared with you thus far, and the very strategies I'm going to share with you now in this chapter. When we got back from break several weeks later, that new teacher next door implemented everything. Everything and made some things her own. Before I knew it, she was always walking down the hallway to our cars with me after school. She had done it. She had become that new teacher next door. But how? Everything I've shared with you thus far has led to this moment. In the next few sections, I'm going to tie everything up for you. It will all make sense. And when you are done, you will walk away with the tools to become that new teacher next door. So let's make it happen. So I wanted to read this to you to show you or articulate where I started off with and how my life very much changed once I figured out the systems that worked for me in my classroom. And the amazing thing was, I wasn't the only teacher that noticed. Many other teachers in my building started stopping me in the hallway and asking me for how my strategies, and I shared it with them. And many of the strategies I shared with them, they took and used, and many they morphed and made their own, which is the whole wonderful thing about teaching and what I do online is I don't show you or share my strategies saying you have to do it my way. I present them to you as inspiration of what's possible for you so you can take them and morph them and make them your own. And I wanted to read this to you because if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too. There's nothing special about me or out of the ordinary. I'm very much an average teacher, and so are the teachers that I very much love and adore, but that I've trained. There's nothing special about them either. The only difference between you and the experienced teacher who was leaving at contract time is that they've had more time to figure out what works best for them. And so keep moving forward, keep doing those strategies, keep building those systems that make it possible for you too. So that's that one. And then the third thing that I wanted to do instead or to focus on is to meet yourself where you are at. If your body says, I can only do this much today, make sure to honor it and show up for yourself and be the friend that you want your students to be for each other. It's okay to meet yourself where you are at. There are days where I felt like working ahead, there are days where I needed to rest. And the only way I got to the other side and stuck with teaching is I started listening to myself and honoring myself because my desires are safe guidance. If I want to do it, then most likely that's the next right step. When you surround yourself with shoulds and have tos, those are often misaligned and it's harder to get where you want to go when you're constantly berating yourself with guilt. And it's okay to have an easy day. It's okay to take a day or two to just rest over winter break or take the entire time as needed. Trust yourself and know that you're going to show up and do the work, and you know yourself best, and you know your body best, and you know your students best. It doesn't mean your students aren't learning anything when you have an easy day or they're not making growth. Most of the time, those days when you are reviewing or taking it easy are when students get the most. That's when the most light bulbs happen because they're seeing it for a third, fourth, fifth, sixth time, and that's when it clicks for some of those students. So, to wrap it up, we just talked about identifying burnout behaviors, and we talked about three things to do instead if you were feeling burned out before break has even started. If you found this week's content helpful, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe or leave a review. That way, this week's content can reach more teachers who need it. And a super shout out to those of you that have been sharing my content with other teachers lately. I've gotten messages about how other teachers have found me from their friends, and I really appreciate you. So if you have a teacher in mind who could use this, I really appreciate it if you could share it with them. And let's talk about a couple different free resources that I have for you or resources I have for you if you are feeling burnt out and you want more support. So the first thing, I have written my book that I read the first, or that I read an excerpt out of for you, and it's available for pre-order. So if you want to get notified right away when the book comes out, make sure to go to the link in the description to get notified when that's available. The second thing that I'm super excited about is those of you that pre-order or get access to the book, you're going to unlock my 3-day Leave on Time Now challenge. This is a 3-day challenge where I'm going to go live and I'm going to share with you step by step how you can consistently leave at contract time and become that new teacher next door. and we're going to do it in 3 days, and we're going to do it so when you come back from break, you're starting new, you're stepping into your new identity as that next teacher, that new teacher next door, and you are her, and you're going to start the new year strong. So super excited about that. You're going to get that free as a bonus, so make sure to check out the description to claim that as soon as you get access to the book. If you want to take a step further and you want my top 10 strategies for burnout and maximizing your time as a teacher, make sure to check out my prep guide. It's my free guide that answers the top 10 questions I get about how to maximize your time as a teacher, what to focus on during your prep, and how to prevent burnout. If you want to take it a step further and you want the strategies, you want the templates, you want me to walk you through all my systems step by step by step, make sure to check out the Present Teacher Circle. It's my community where I share everything that you could possibly need those first couple of years of teaching to make teaching a breeze. We talk about classroom management. How can your students run the classroom without you? We talk about grading and data. How can you collect data and come up with a turnaround time for grading that makes it easy and you're not staying up late the night before report cards are due? We talk about communication. I share with you how I build strong relationships with my families to the point where they request me to the principal, and how do I build strong relationships with my coworkers and my principal and my admin. We talk about things like lesson planning and prepping. How can you decide how far in advance you want to plan and prep, and how can you set yourself up with the systems to do that and accomplish that? We talk about it all, so make sure to check that out. What I love about this community is it's very much actionable and choose your own pace and what you focus on. You can jump around to whatever area you want to focus on. There's challenges where I give you bite-sized actionable steps you can take each day. There's templates that you unlock in those challenges. There's a ton of resources, templates in there that you can unlock as you go. So make sure to check that out because really it's just everything in one place, which I really, really love. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a super restful and rejuvenating break. As always, remember we are stronger together, and I'll see you in the next one, Teacher Bestie. Bye!
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I hope that you were able to take away some value that will help you thrive inside and out of the classroom. It would mean the world to me if you could take 5 seconds right now and leave a review on this podcast. And if you found this podcast especially helpful, make sure to take a screenshot of this episode right now and tag me on your socials to let me know you're listening. As always, remember that we are stronger together with all the love in the world. Helena, aka the Present Teacher. See you next time, Teacher Bestie.